Jump in.
Hey, this is Tony
and Matt
of the MT Live Show, broadcasting live each week on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. Central here on the Fishbowl Radio Network. It's a show where we talk about all things in nerd culture. We'll talk about it, debate about it, and even laugh about it. So pull up a Mobius chair, chew on a sensu bean, because if it has anything to do with comics,
games,
movies,
anime,
and everything in between, including interviews and special performances live. So tune in every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Central here on Fishbowl Radio Network.
Jump in.
Hello? Hey, I just clocked out. What are you doing? Thinking about me? You are always on my mind. Because I miss you like crazy. Like, I'm missing my connection with you. To be perfectly honest, I can't wait to be with you.
The love I have for you, no guessing. It's what I feel lives inside. My dedication, I'm confessing. Forever you'll be mine. Time is on my side. No work, no one, no sign. Your voice I hear in my dreams. And when I wake, feelings I can't define. I can't wait to be with you again. I can't wait. I can't wait, no. Waiting to feel your love again. I can't wait. I can't wait, no. I can't wait to be with you again. Waiting to feel your love again. And now the whole wide world is stressing.
I Can't Wait was with Kenya Crawford. Like, you need to let it play. Yeah, let it play, man.
Hello? Hey, I just clocked out. What are you doing? Thinking about me? You are always on my mind.
What we're listening to right now.
Because I miss you like crazy. Like, I'm missing my connection with you. To be perfectly honest, I can't wait to be with you.
The love I have for you, no guessing. It's what I feel lives inside. My dedication, I'm confessing. Forever you'll be mine. Time is on my side. No work.
Let the Todd do that thing. All right, we're live, up close and personal, the Commish radio show way. We're back again as we are doing the hour number 2 of the radio show. Hour number 2 of the radio show. I'd like to thank all of those who listen in to hour number 1. As you know, we're doing back-to-back, doubling it up on it because we need double trouble in the house, and we do have double trouble in the house right now. I think we're restreaming right now. We're all across the world right now. From Como to the Congo as well. And we are also on the West Coast. To send a shout out to my dude, Rodney Allen Rippey. Yep, Rodney Allen Rippey. Yeah, Rodney Allen Rippey.
All right.
Yeah, Rodney Allen Rippey. And we're doing our deal with West Coast distribution of this great show. Legal Standpoint, Michael Todd. Hey, what's going on? Talk to me,
Hey,
man.
how you doing, Ed? Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth, brother.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm living okay, man.
You living okay?
I'm
Doing
living
good?
Okay. I'm doing okay.
All right.
I'm
So
doing okay.
I take it you were at Jim Austin's last night.
Yeah, I was emceeing there, man.
You
I
the
was
MC?
I was emceeing.
Everybody had a good time?
Everybody had a good time.
Eat just eating, drinking, barbecue, what?
We didn't do no barbecue. We
No
had
barbecue.
Hudak Shack. We had Hudak Shack, so we had them. We had red beans and rice because it's nice.
Right.
But you know, that's what we had. So we had that thing going on, man.
Right.
And we had the blues, we had some jazz.
Oh,
you
well,
know.
you had blues.
We had good
Good blues?
Good blues.
Wait a minute.
Ray
wait,
Reed and the Gator Band.
Was it like exciting type blues, or was it like begging man blues?
All of that. You can't have the blues unless you have it all. So that's it.
You got to
So
do some begging if
So
you're
we
doing
had
blues.
we had that. So we had that going on. We had that, and we had Kenya Crawford. I can't wait. We just played her music, and hopefully, I'm gonna send this out to shout out to Facebook. Hopefully, their Facebook won't take us off the air on that, because they always do that with my stuff.
Well, how's that?
They don't like me, man.
They don't like you.
They don't like me. It could be worse. I could be like what's the guy's name that was president at one point?
45.
Something like that.
Yeah, that guy.
that one.
It could be.
Yeah, I could
be
be worse. They could have me in Facebook jail, but they put me in quarantine.
Right. Just
I mean,
for a few days.
No, I mean seriously. I mean, man, it's like I put my music out there, and I don't have to put a disclaimer saying I don't own the rights. People do that. They say I don't own the rights, so they'll leave them alone.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't have to put that out there. Even when I put the stuff out there, they still do that.
Real. Well, 'cause
You're a lawyer, man. Can you help a brother out?
Didn't we have a problem with that with the stand up get up with Bob Marley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and
It
it's
was like legal standpoint, and I just thought stand up, get up would be
right. And
would
if
be a great
you
song.
you a corporation or something like that, ain't you? So
Yeah, something like that.
something like that. So you know, so you have a right to advertise your own stuff. So
Yeah.
likewise, you got a right on that. You know?
Well, one thing though, I want you, and I know you know this. Jim Austin is a Howard man.
He's a Howard man.
Howard
I
man,
know
you knew that, didn't
I
you?
knew that.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we have a Howard young lady here
We-
with us today, who was my daughter.
All Howard.
Yes.
All Bisons.
Yeah,
in
All
there.
Bison.
All Bison. So we
Bison.
have my daughter, Sydney Todd, here with me. She
Yes.
flew in all the way from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
for Father's Day.
Father's
what
Day
good.
/ Juneteenth.
Father's
Yeah.
Day / Juneteenth.
Yes.
Yeah, fathers don't get a break. We got to celebrate with everything.
I
Father's
know
Day,
it, I know
Juneteenth.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Father's Day, National Flag Day.
Hey, National Hamburger Day.
These brothers don't get a chance,
Hey,
man.
man, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's tough.
It's hard. It's hard.
It's
It's
tough.
hard. It's hard being a father. It's hard, but happy Father's Day.
Oh, I
too.
appreciate it. Happy Father's Day to you also.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
So, you know, it was really amazing. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we saw that this was going to be on Juneteenth.
Right.
And we said, well, hey, we got to talk about the 10th, you know, Juneteenth. And I know you've been talking about the emancipation and things of that nature.
Right.
But I did not know when we talked about this a few weeks ago that it was going to be this flurry of activity that was going to lead to there being a national holiday.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, did it catch you off guard? It caught me off guard. I didn't expect it. I hadn't heard that legislation moving through.
Well, I heard the legislation moving through, but you know, it's like anything with me about legislation moving through. I mean, I'm not surprised when Republicans do certain things. You know? So I thought they was going to just not do anything with it. But then, as I wrote on Facebook, I said that beware of the politician who gives you a holiday in June and takes away your vote in November.
Oh, without a doubt.
So-
And you know, and that's something we have to talk about for sure, because that's something that's happening not only in this state but all around the country. And it's something that we've talked about in the past, and something that we had to continue to harp on. But you know, when we talk about Juneteenth and we're talking about the end of slavery being in 1865, when the general came into Galveston and gave that general order, the third general order, you know, I read something that said that, you know what, that order not only said that the slaves were now free, but it also said that the slaves were equal to the white folks. Did
Yep.
you know that?
Yep.
So it was not only a release of involuntary servitude, but it was also supposed to serve as what? A mechanism to raise those individuals with respect to be equal participants of the individuals within our country. And you know, the one thing that worries me is that, you know, we're happy that we had this holiday, but we have to be mindful of the history. Yeah, slavery was officially ended on Juneteenth, but it only lasted for what? 65 to 77 when they did the Great Compromise.
Right.
So it only lasted, what, 12 years before we then were thrown into a whole period of secondary citizenship, Jim Crow, and things of that nature. So are we really in a situation while we're happy about the Juneteenth? Should we just get lost in that end? What, should we just say, hey, we've gotten some big accomplishment by getting this holiday?
Well, as I was stating before, I said that this whole thing is, I commemorate the holidays. Again, for WFAA, I want you guys to go ahead and Google Ed Grade WFAA Juneteenth interview. I said that it was a commemoration. I commemorate the fact that that event occurred. When we have this situation now where we're dealing with, as we've been talking about, voter suppression, that's what that article was about, and that's what that interview was about, voter suppression and the things that we're going through now. We're still fighting for that as much as the slaves or the enslaved Africans were on Juneteenth, 1865.
Right.
Because the General Granger told him, he said, hey, y'all free, but he didn't tell them what to do after that.
Right.
He said, go back to your plantation and then negotiate a contract with somebody that can read and write, and you can't read and write.
Right. And you know what?
And you're equal. By the way, you just said you're equal.
And you're equal, right? But you have not been able to make $1 for yourself out of over 200 years, 400 if you're going back to 1619, right? And you're now free, but we're not going to give you what? Any provisions. We're not going to give you any money. We're not going to give you any land.
Nothing.
So all you do is you just got a tribe of people who are just wandering around now talking about what can we do now.
And that's what you ended up happening.
And that's what you end up, just a migration of individuals going around trying to find some type of security, some type of place where they can be safe from the individuals that wanted to cause them harm.
That's right. And speaking of causing harm, we want to make sure we go to our first set of drops right now. We're coming up on the 5-minute mark. You've been listening to Legal Standpoint. Hey, Legal Standpoint with what?
Legal Standpoint that's hosted by Townview Realty and the lovely Gail Lamb Todd.
Let's play those couple of drops. Let's lead off with the Gail Lamb Todd drop, and also a couple of drops on the Commish Radio Show, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Gail Todd with Townview Realtors. If you find yourself in the market to buy, sell, lease, or maybe you want to be a part of this hot real estate market by investing, just give my team of professionals and I a call at 214-675-9572. Again, that's 214-675-9572. Or you can email me at gtodd88@yahoo.com. With me, it's all about you.
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the Commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Hi, this is Howard Scott from The Howard Scott Show, coming to you from beautiful Arlington, Texas on Fishbowl Radio. You can catch me every Wednesday from 6 to 7, and we play all this war music, and you get to hear some of the songs that I wrote when I was in the band War, how I created the songs, the stories behind it, and we start off with the blues. You have a good time talking to me, so tune in every Wednesday from 6 to 7 and catch The Howard Scott Show. We're having a whole lot of fun on Fishbowl Radio. Jump in.
Hello, this is Southern Girl Speaks. That's Southern Girl, G-U-R-L, giving, understanding, real and loving. This is your place to come every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come and be inspired, motivated, encouraged, and empowered.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
When you
Hey, this is the Candyman, host of the Candyman Show, broadcasting live each week on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. from FBRN Studios at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. We bring you the best in the local MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, pro wrestling, as well as music and entertainment. So be sure to log on each week on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and catch the Candyman Show
on FishbowlRadioNetwork.com.
Jump in.
Hello, everybody.
everybody. This is Prophet Dr. Jorge Rojas, host Favor with a New Flavor, broadcasting live each week every Wednesday at 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. And I love to invite you to tune in every week. We'll be talking about teachings and concepts of faith, favor, fire, and financial success, and victory in every area and aspect of your life. I will be interviewing different ministers and speakers, entrepreneurs, and anointed music artists. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday from 4 to 5 with Favor with a New Flavor
on FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
All right, legal standpoint with Michael Todd. And we're back again, and we would like to go ahead and thank all of those that are listening in. As you probably watching through Facebook Live, we have this show subtitled for those people who have difficulty hearing, so we have it subtitled as well. So I'd like to thank Trent for getting that for us. He's terrific, Trent.
Hey, it's like the Texas weather in there.
It's terrific, Trent.
It can change at any time.
Yeah, it can change. Terrific, Trent now. Subtitles gone already. It's gone already. So yeah, but that's what we talk about, equality clause. We have this deal, the equality clause in law, and we also have the equality clause through society as well. And part of that equality is that there's no such thing as a handicap. We often have people's genius concealed and their handicap revealed. In that situation, we are now making sure that everyone that can listen to this show, that can't listen to the show, is able to hear it through the captions. So that being said, we capturing a new brand set of listeners. So we're going to thank those people who are tuning in that way as well.
All right. That's great. That's great. Because you know what? You don't even have to be lack of being able to hear. My wife and I, we've been using closed caption on the TV, man, for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can't have a closed caption, it's a problem.
I kind of started doing that when I started looking at football games. I don't want to hear them talk because they wouldn't be talking about nothing. Now, I see the play, I know the game.
Yeah.
So
well, you know
put
what?
the captions on there. Okay, I read it when I want to read it.
Now, you see, I'm the complete opposite because I watch closed captions on everything but sports. Because on sports, the captions get in the way of what's happening on the field or the court or the track.
Oh, yeah,
or
it could
whatever.
cover up the players.
Yeah,
but your TV set covers 2 time zones, Mike.
No. If it did, that's over at Gray. Is it Gray Castle?
Gray Haven.
Gray Haven. I always get it mixed up. Gray Haven. I know it's Gray Sunday. Gray Sunday sound.
Yeah,
real
Gray
big.
Haven. Yeah,
Gray
Haven.
Whatever. But you know what, Ed? We were talking about this Emancipation Proclamation, and back in 1865. Well, 1863, and then we had Juneteenth in 1865. And you know what? You hear a lot of people, and you talk, and this has really been prevalent now, where people are saying, "Well, hey, that's something that happened a long time ago. We don't have anything to do with that. Why do we have to keep hearing about this and things of that nature?" And I just kind of think sometimes, I kind of reflect back on conversations I had with my grandmother. My grandmother's name on my mother's side was named Cordia Nathan. She was born in 1902. And Cordia's mother...
That's your grandmother?
Yes. My great-grandmother would have been named Francine. And Francine passed at an early age. So my grandmother's grandmother raised her.
Got it.
And her name was Rosetta. And the thing about Rosetta is that she raised my grandmother, and Rosetta had been a slave. You follow me?
I follow.
And we've had the oral history that's passed down where my grandmother told us things about her. She was short in stature. Used to have to carry not only a bucket of water in each hand through pasture fields, but actually one on top of her head also. That she worked in the house. That the children of the house taught her how to read. But when the missus of the house came forward and saw her reading, would snatch the book away from her and would admonish her. Also, at one point, hit her in the head with a shovel. And my grandmother said that her grandmother, Rosetta, had an indention in her head from where she had been hit with that that shovel. Now, I'm going through all that to say this. Everybody talks about that this slavery and things of that nature was so long ago. But I have talked to a person who has talked to a slave. Mm-hmm. You follow me? I'm talking about, we're just talking about a few generations. I have talked to someone. This isn't something in just a history book where I'm just reading about how people were treated. I am hearing oral history that's directly from my descendant to my grandmother to me of what's transpired.
And that's why I really hate the term critical race theory, because what happened was not theoretical. Like, that's really what happened. Like, this is really our history, and it's really a part of the grand scheme of everything. So to, classify it as something that, it might have happened, this is how some people feel about it, that,
delegitimizes.
It delegitimizes it. It makes it just it's an optional course.
Right.
But it's no, that's what it is.
Right.
But how are we going to teach Juneteenth in Texas based on that? You have a holiday now for Juneteenth. What are they going to say? Juneteenth maybe?
Yeah, because you know what?
You can't teach it right.
Because you know what? In this provision, in this law that Governor Abbott just signed, they had some things. They say you can't teach critical race theory. You can't talk about current events unless it's balanced or whatever. It's a real entrenchment as it relates to what's being taught in the classrooms. However, there are some items that they say that they can talk about, like the Civil Rights Act of 1965. They can talk about slavery. They can talk about some topics. But guess what's not listed in those topics?
What's that?
Juneteenth isn't listed in those
see, that's
topics.
what I'm saying. How they can't make
So if they were in class right now,
they couldn't tell what.
Or even when they come back to class.
I was just saying, they wouldn't be in class.
How
no, but when you get to Juneteenth, you go Juneteenth, we understand that some people may have been, and they'll put some kind of disclaimer.
Right.
Just like I went down to the Alamo, the Shrine of Texas Freedom.
Right.
And I go down to the Shrine of Texas Freedom. Yes, I said, let me say it a third time so people can get upset. The Shrine of Texas Freedom, and it said that Jim Bowie and his servant.
His servant.
And I go servant, hell, he was a slave.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Bowie was a slave trader.
Right.
That was part of the problem that the Mexican government had with the province of Texas because they were violating Mexican law.
Yes,
they were importing slaves in when slavery was outlawed in the state of Texas or the province of Texas. So this whole deal about they're crossing the border, they crossed the border before in Texas, but they crossed the border in Texas
for a reason.
For a reason, and they brought slaves.
Right. Well, and you know what? The terms that
that's not going to be taught.
Right,
because that's not the narrative.
That's not the narrative. But the thing is this: those terms, those labels that they try to say. Slaves are not. They were, labor,
indentured servant,
or workers. They try to give all of these terms to kind of clean up exactly what the experience was. And you remember it's so ingrained. Do you remember a few months ago there was this sheriff, the sheriff in Georgia? He and his deputy were talking, and they caught him on camera. They were on body cams, and they didn't know it. And the chief of the force said, well, everybody talking because it was going to be a Black Lives Matter.
By the way, I like your shirt.
Oh, I appreciate that. I didn't have one that said Juneteenth on it, so I tried to get as close as
Percy
I could.
Ray.
Right.
Played by Percy Ray.
Right.
Shameless plug for Percy Ray. Bryant.
But it was a Black Lives Matter a march was coming to this little Georgia town, and so this chief was talking to his deputy, and he said something to the effect of, back in slavery, all they had to do was work. They had their food taken care of. They had a place to stay. They didn't have to do anything else. He said, sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Yeah.
Now,
that's what they said.
Let's think about this. This ain't somebody Jim Bob on the corner down there dipping snuff, smoking a corncob pipe. But what I'm saying, this was the chief of police.
Yeah, just because you're the chief of police don't mean you don't have those Jim Bob qualities.
But what I'm trying to say is,
he was a person. I got what you're saying.
A person of authority, somebody that should be looking for representation and protecting and serving all the individuals that come within his jurisdiction.
Right.
And it was just so ingrained that it was just the racism was just coming out of them, and that's what we have to deal with. And we deal with it because we haven't had a fair representation of what the history has been in this particular country as it relates to our experience.
Yeah.
And we have to understand, it's not, folks want to say, oh, okay, well, that's the black experience, right? No, that's the American experience. This is something that ties in all we all, if one person is being held back, we're all being held back. We can't move forward without addressing what has occurred in the past. Sydney, you had an interesting comment when we were talking about the Juneteenth, and we were talking about moving forward, things of that nature.
Oh yeah, I said I don't stand for equality. I stand for equity.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean, everyone, if we're going to hold some people back, then we have to give them the resources to move forward so they could reach the same level that everyone else has been given to.
Right.
If I just, if I give everyone in here a radio, but one of us is deaf and I can't hear the radio, that doesn't help me access any knowledge.
Right.
So it's the same thing, giving people the tools that they need. With the black community, it's a lot of financial tools we need. It's a lot of legal tools we need. I mean, and he knows this, but we had a debate just about Juneteenth becoming an official day, because in my opinion, it was a very performative thing for politicians to do, and it didn't create any real change.
Whoa, wait a minute.
For us.
You said performative. I like that.
Performative, yes.
Right.
And I don't like performative politics where it's like, I'm going to do something really nice. Like, I'm going to do a ribbon cutting in front of the library, but make it never open. Like that's how Juneteenth felt to me.
That's a good one.
Like we're past, like you said earlier, the kids can't even talk about Juneteenth in school, but they know they're gonna have a day off, right? They're not gonna care why they're off. Just like today is a day off.
Right.
I also didn't like the fact that the people who will benefit off having a day off typically are going to be people who have upper class, middle class, higher wage jobs, and people who work low wage and service jobs, they're still going to be working,
right,
and servicing these people who are off.
Right.
Doesn't that sound like what happened the day before Juneteenth? Doesn't that sound like June 18th? Like, well, we're just working for people, and it just seems like a lot of hypocrisy, in my opinion.
Well, that's the dominant. Hey, appreciate you for saying it. I love what you said about equality and equity, because people think that's the same. And, they say, okay, everything's equal, and I give you two, and you got two, everything's equal. But you had 25 of them before me. Now I get two of them, and then you say it's equal now.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't take some of those 25 and then now give them to me. And now we both be equal, but you have all this now ahead of you.
Right.
It's a wild thing. But
to follow up on Sydney's example earlier, let's say they give out 4 books.
Right.
And they say, okay, now you had a book, to learn, what's going on.
But I couldn't read.
But I can't. I had 400 years where I couldn't even read. So what good is the book doing me?
Yeah. Well, that, and I understand that. I didn't go one of those fancy schools in D.C. like Howard.
Howard,
That was created as a result of the Freedmen's Bureau.
Right, 1867, Howard was established.
By one of those generals, if I'm not mistaken.
General Howard.
Yeah, I can't think of the first name right now, but But the reality of it is, as well, is that I went to school at William Brown Miller Elementary in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
William Brown Miller Elementary on Dallas, Texas. Was on the former plantation grounds of William Brown Miller.
Now, I did not know that.
I didn't know that
So the school was actually on the plantation ground. So I was there in 1967, 100 years after the plantation. It basically stopped being an active plantation in slavery and became an active plantation post-slavery. But nevertheless, they gave us books. W.T. White was the superintendent, but when I got the books had already been taken up. There was no spot where you put your name on it.
Right, they would already.
You remember that?
Yeah, they'd already been used and stamped and everything.
So you
by
have
other folks.
secondhand. Secondhand, you know.
Right.
And these books that came from North Dallas, and then when it was our time to use them, they gave them to us in South Dallas.
Right.
And that's how we learned off of that.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, so we've had a lot of impediments, you know, over the time. We still do, right? But the thing is that I guess we have to continue to move forward. And, you know, we have to reach within ourselves and to be self-reliant as it relates to what we want. And, of course, to keep the pressure up and to not be placated by the Juneteenth holiday and not still push for the things that are important to us now, like the Voting Rights Act, like both of the Voting Rights Act, the Police Reform Act that's before Congress right now that they're supposed to be negotiating. Those are things that are important that need to come out of that Congress to address the real concerns that we have. And we have to not just say, okay, I'm happy with this, and forget about the yeoman's work that needs to be continued.
Well, this yeoman's work that you're talking about, you know, yeoman's work is always dedicated to the yeoman, because yeoman, you got to do some work on this.
Right.
So this thing being said, you know, we have a lot more work to do. And if we are going to sell out, and this I'm going to talk like Brother Malcolm would have said it, you know, like I've said before in another Facebook post, I'm what James Baldwin warned you about. I'm the fire the next time. So this is what we're talking about. If we're going to sell out and be happy, don't worry, be happy because we have the Juneteenth holiday. Let us really be happy when we get these bills passed out as well.
Right.
Seems like America always acts upon something with black folk, we're pacifying black folk after something has happened to get their attention to say we need to change it. So they go ahead, they give us this because you have that shirt on today that said Black Lives Matter.
Right. And
for the last 365 days, people have been steady saying Black Lives Matter to the point that corporate America is now saying, well, wait a minute, we can't make no money off of this thing. People ain't going to spend no money on this. So therefore, we're going to have to do something about this. So let us go ahead and give with performative politics on a corporate level. See, I was listening, sister. Performative, that's why I said that's good. I'll use it. Performative politics on a corporate level to go ahead and make it apply to what we want to do. So now the performative politics now is the holiday.
Yes.
right.
So now you don't do anything about the voting legislation. You don't do anything about police reform, but you go ahead and basically do this, as they've done before in Texas. Red soda water.
Right. Cheetos.
Watermelon.
Right.
Chicken.
Right.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
That's all
But then this is what it is. And this is what I was challenging people during the first hour, as Jimmy Corzine is looking at as well. Shout out to him as well. As we are challenging us that we have to move beyond those Cheetos, move beyond the red soda water, move beyond the chicken.
Right.
I don't care if you get a Williams Chicken. Well, that's a good place. I'll do a shout out for Williams Chicken. But, you know, that being said, we got to move beyond that and make something more concrete where this holiday actually has some meaning.
Right.
It's not like it was when my great-grandfather, Bob Wright, was told by his old master, he said, you can stay here as long as I'm alive. And he had no other option. And that's what he had to do. So now we have some options. These options are clearly obvious. We got this legislation. We need to go ahead and tell them to enforce it.
And the thing is this. We've got to make sure that we're keeping pressure on Congress, because the whole situation that we have, like with Senator Manchin, where he wants to have this bipartisanship as it relates to the election bills, as it relates to the police reform, things of that nature. He has to understand that some people do not want to. They don't want to give up any type of power. and there's going to be resistance at all times. I'll never forget, I had a professor in law school up at the esteemed Howard University School of Law. His name was J. Clay Smith, one of the most eminent brothers that I ever studied under. And he always used to say, hey, look, man, when you are sitting there asking for things, you are trying to take power away from people. And people will do everything they can to maintain that power. We're seeing that now. You know, some of the things we're talking about with respect to the voting, we've talked about, hey, you can't get the water, you can't get the Cheetos in the line and things of that nature. But those are not the most insidious things in these bills. There was an article in the New York Times just today how it was talking about how the legislatures in these states have changed how the local election boards will be constituted. And some of the people who were black folks who have been on these boards for years to give a voice to how elections take place in their municipality are now being removed because of the new methods that they have used, where they're taking black folks off, where you had a split where it may have been 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, where now it's going to be 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And if we are sitting here and we don't take notice that how an election is being run, where the voting machines are, things of that nature, if we don't understand the mechanics, how those mechanics affect the final result, then we about to get snookered into the whole the second Reconstruction being
We're
over.
already there. We're already there. And you know, we're already there at our 5:30 mark, and when we come back, we will talk more. I'm all choked up, Mike.
No,
It's a lot.
I'm all choked up. You got me on that. But you know,
ain't be choked up, stand up.
Stand up for your rights. We get ready to go to our next break.
Hey, how you doing? This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned and tune in and be up to speed on everything in social justice, human rights, and politics on the Commish Radio Show, airing every Saturday, 5 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Jump in.
Hello, we are It's About the Kids Incorporated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates out of Dallas, Texas.
Our mission is to focus on the kids of today who will become the youth of tomorrow and the adult of the future. Today, tomorrow, the future.
Empowering the community one family at a time.
You can reach us at all social media platforms at It's About the Kids or online at www.itsaboutthekids.org.
Where we mentor a child, save a life.
Hey everybody, this is Terrence Hopkins, better known as T-Hop the Super Cop, host of the world-renowned Police Talk 101, broadcasting live each week on Tuesday at 8 p.m. from FBRN Studios at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Log on to hear deep, serious conversation about police issues and other things that are affecting our country today. So be sure to log on each week on Tuesday at 8 p.m. to catch Police Talk 101
on FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
Podcasters, the name of the game is to get more visibility for your podcast so you can gain more credibility with your audience, thus more profitability. If you're ready to start syndicating your podcast and massively grow your audience and influence, then contact Fishbowl Radio Network today at 817-633-4880. Fishbowl Radio Network is one of the largest streaming platforms in the world, and now your podcast can be heard all over the world by the listening audience that Fishbowl Radio Network has amassed over the last 11 years. With over 6 million impressions a month and growing, this is a platform that all podcasters should be on to create greater visibility for their podcast. Jump in today and be a part of the Fishbowl family, streaming great live internet radio shows and podcasts 24/7. 817-633-4880. Jump in.
This is LaTanya L.T. Davison of the Mental Speak and Music Speak radio shows, broadcasting live each Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central from Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Log on to hear discussions on social issues, mental and emotional wellness, comedy, music, and other topics with the goal of finding balance within ourselves and our communities around the world.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
Hey y'all, it's your boy, Journeyman Bell, aka Mr. 100, host of my new show, The Journey, broadcasting live each week on Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time at Fishbowl Radio Network Studios at Global Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Log in here at The Journey and listen in as we deal with topics on the 100 basis. That's right, you get nothing but the 100 from The Journeyman. So be sure to log in each week on Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time at The Journey, where we take life one step at a time.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
All right, second half of the second show, as we do this show, Legal Standpoint with Michael Todd, sponsored by Townview Realtors. We like to thank you for tuning in. The market is still hot, just as hot as it is in the state of Texas right now. And we are talking about Juneteenth, and people are sending me texts talking about they're going over to Jim Austin online. The studio here will be the studio there, and I'll be there hanging out. I would like to send a shout out to Vince Sims over at NBC5, was hanging out with him yesterday. And it was a great show, and it was also great being with Michael Todd, and the lovely Sydney Todd is here today.
All right.
All
right. You know what, Ed? I was just sitting there during the break, and I was just thinking, we've talked about, Juneteenth actually being this holiday, and then we've also talked about us still being vigilant as it relates to those items that are important to us as it relates to voting and things of that nature. But it also made me kind of think about, as we are being vigilant about the type of resistance that we are, that we're going to be up against. I just talked about how J. Clay Smith, my old professor, said that, individuals, when you're trying to take power from them, then they're going to fight you tooth and nail. And, an example of that, and this really hit me as really odd. This past week, as you know, the governor went on and signed that bill that restricted what the kids can learn in school. We've been talking about that a little bit, right? And he signed that bill, so, they can't talk about the 1619 Project, the critical race theory, things of that nature. However, when that bill was passed, when the bill went to the House representatives were able to get in, the Democratic House representatives were able to get in a laundry list of items or topics that could be discussed, such as white supremacy, such as slavery, such as the civil rights bill.
You can talk about those.
You can talk about these. So it was a pretty long laundry list of things. And I'm going to be honest, as I read those lists, I'm like, okay, well, they may not be able to talk about the 1619 Project, and they can't talk about maybe critical race theory, but we got a lot of good stuff in there that we can still hammer what the information is.
So then again, it was performative politics then.
But, well, it is, but let's say this, though. But let's say this, but this is...
Because what did it do?
Right, but look at this, though. Those were House amendments that were added, all right? When the bill, so then you had two bills that were different. You had one that came from the Senate, and then you had the one from the House that had all these additional items that were good, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when that bill went to the conference committee, what the Senate, when it went to the conference committee and then back to the Senate ripped out all of those good things that had been included. They wanted them out. So what happened then is that the bill had to go back to the House to be voted on, like the Senate had stripped it down. And one of the House Democrats came up with a point of order, jammed them up on it, and the bill wasn't going to be able to move forward at all. So it was going to be like dead in the water. Well, what happened then is the Senate said, oh, well, no, wait a minute, we can't have that. We got to have this bill. So what they did is that they went back and they stripped out all the strip outs. So they put all the stuff back in. You follow me? And then they passed it and sent it to the governor. All right?
It's a lot of stripping.
A lot of stripping.
The strip outs.
But this is the point. Now, I went through all that to say this, though. I ain't even said the point yet. The point is, when the governor signed the bill this week, he did a signing statement that said that he was going to put this bill back on the agenda for the special legislative session that's going to be coming soon, right?
To strip it again.
Because he thinks the bill needs some more work. And you know what that is?
All those additions.
All those additions that they had. So the question is, what is it about black history, American history, that makes folks so uncomfortable that you can't learn about it?
That's the reason why I like talking about it.
Because you can't talk about black history without mentioning white failures.
Ooh, man.
It makes people uncomfortable to talk about things they did wrong.
She can't be on this show no more. She's too.
Wow.
Can't have her on the show.
I'm going to get y'all in trouble.
That's the reason why Facebook don't be liking me now. I'm pretty sure with it. Yeah, you're probably right. Because, that's what's happening. Go like, they go like, this Commish radio show again. We'll see how many viewers he get today.
Wow. You know what? That was profound, Sydney. That was profound.
And prophetic.
Yeah.
Just say, because you're a white failure, so.
Really?
Yeah.
I personally don't like to talk about when I messed up, so I can only imagine if I messed up.
You're playing a blame game. Why are you always blaming us?
Yeah.
Right.
And like today's generations of people, they're like, well, we have nothing to do with that.
Nothing at all.
That happened a long time ago. If I was there, it totally wouldn't have happened.
Right.
While they're literally living off, the fruits of our ancestors' labor.
Right.
As they get scared when you come on the elevator with them.
Right. And so you just want to say, hey, Massa was actually my great granddad too. I should be in, get color that. And they're like, no.
Well, you know what? The thing is that, it's a situation where, I'm not trying to blame anyone for what happened in the past, but we have to be mindful of what has happened in the past. And as you said earlier, we have to make sure that we are being, that there's equity as it relates to how we move forward.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, though, is that you can't get a handle on what the situation is without talking about what the problem is. That's like two people being in a bad marriage, right?
Yeah.
And they're in this marriage, and there's an issue between them, no matter whether it's one's on drugs, infidelity, just don't vibe with each other anymore, or whatever. But if they never talk about what the situation is, how can they ever move forward in a positive manner?
They can't.
You can't.
It's like how the 12-step program, the first step is you have to acknowledge that you have a problem.
Right.
If you can't do step 1, you sure can't do step 2.
Right. Wait a minute, girl. How you know about the 12-step program?
Everybody knows about the 12-step program. Everybody knows about the 12-step program.
I'm going to look at the people at home and go like, what are they talking? But America needs to be on a 12-step program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once it got on that program, or once it gets on that program, it can totally free itself, because America has not been totally free. The only issue that America has is hypocrisy when it talks about freedom. It talks about freeing the world from the tyranny of freedom elsewhere, whereas they don't even do anything about the tyranny that's in our land.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you, the events of the last, year has made me think that everybody's professing their love for democracy has been nothing but just kind of like a whitewash, because you cannot say that you're for democracy. Watch someone attempt to overturn an election by any means necessary, trying to get trying to get judicial, and I don't have a problem with, if you want to file lawsuits, file your lawsuits. Getting tossed out of court, then trying to strong arm legislatures, trying to strong arm election officials, rigging new laws to affect how election officials can now do their jobs, and to not only ask people to come and to let's have a wild time at the Capitol, but after they had the Capitol under siege, then tells them, we love you.
That was an attempted overthrow.
So how can you be for democracy? How can some of these senators who sit there and say that they love America and our democratic ideals, and I'm talking about democratic with a big D, how can they say that they are for democracy and they don't do anything to support it? How can they? They can't.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier about it would be nice if democracy would come to the United States.
Right.
But you know, it's a good thing that we can talk about it. You know.
Well, I mean, so do you think that this whole thing with democracy has just been a ruse this whole time?
I think it's an experiment, and that's what it is. I believe it was when they asked Dr. Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, that's Dr. Franklin, they asked Dr. Franklin, they said, what do we have? And he said, we have a republic if you can keep it. And that's where we've been at. We've been on this experiment. And this whole experiment of democracy, this is just part of it, because that American democracy, contrary to popular belief, didn't mean that Sydney could vote. She's a black woman.
Oh, no, I
didn't
did
mean
not
that
vote.
any woman could vote.
Right.
You know, it didn't mean that black people could vote because they weren't citizens. Even our Native Americans were not citizens until 1922. You know,
Well, not only that, even white men couldn't vote if they didn't have any money.
You had to be a landowner.
Had to be a landowner.
Right.
Right.
No blood boys.
So if you were poor, and even if you were white, you couldn't vote then either. So the whole situation is
a very selective group of people in
Right.
America can vote, and this very selective group of people in America that control things now.
Right.
And that's what they do. And what is sad about that is I believe that a lot of the people who feel, and I'm not going to go because we're talking about Juneteenth.
Right.
I'm going to tie this into the guy that was the former president, the insurrectionist in chief. The insurrectionist in chief championed Juneteenth as a holiday himself.
He did. But what was the purpose behind it? What was the purpose behind it?
So when your enemy champions your cause,
right,
then you have to question your cause or change your position.
Well, you know what? My whole thing about that, because not only did he say he was for Juneteenth, but, you know, he used to always say, hey, look, you know, I'm going to get the black unemployment down. I'm going to make sure that blacks have more enterprise zones. They're going to have more wealth. They're going to have all these things. What they got to lose, you know, the schools are bad. They're shooting each other, this, that, and the other. But to be honest, Ed, he wasn't talking to black folks to try to get black folks to come over with him. What he was doing was giving enough face time on those issues so his voters would say, oh,
I tried.
Yeah, I tried. I mean, it was the bamboozle move from the jump.
It wasn't actually doing, it's giving lip service. Performative politics.
Right.
I've used it about 5 times.
Yeah. Right. You like that.
If I was on Inside Texas Politics, I would say performative politics next week. He stole my line.
Go ahead.
But you know, that's what it is. So that's what he was doing.
Right.
I mean, but it worked.
Well, it worked to have people think it inoculated him from people seeing him for the true person that he is.
And it worked because what worked is that this is where we're at as we get ready to go to a close. This is where we're at now as we talked in circles, but we knew we were talking in circles because we began here and we ended up right where we started at. And that's not talking in circles, that's having a plan. And what's having a plan is this is what's going on with the Juneteenth holiday. We're happy we have a Juneteenth holiday because someone gave you something. You don't get power by somebody giving it to you.
That's correct.
You take power.
Right.
So if somebody gave you power, you have absolutely nothing.
Right.
So now when someone gives you a holiday and then takes away your vote, someone gives you a holiday and then doesn't do police reform.
Right.
Someone gives you a holiday and then tries to take back the Affordable Care Act. These are things that we're dealing with now that make us just as much as we're going into the second era of Reconstruction, as it was in 1865. You got to close it. You've done closings before.
And the thing is this, we can't let this be 1877 again. We can't. And everybody knows 1877 was when Reconstruction ended because of the compromise that was made because of the 1876 election, the one that was disputed. So we can't allow these type of actions to occur where we begin the end of our second Reconstruction that started with the Civil Rights Act back in 1965 and the Voting Rights Act back in 68. We have to be steadfast. We have to make sure that we're pushing forward with everything that affects our interest. Voting, police reform, wealth building, working within our own communities to make sure that we can have these. Come on, we got the internet now. We can have our own Tulsa, our own Tulsa.
Virtual Tulsa.
A virtual Tulsa,
That's right.
Black Wall Street, right here.
Right.
So we don't have to ask anybody to help give us anything and all that. We can do it ourselves. But we have to make sure that we keep our eyes on the prize and do not allow, as you stated, Ed, for us to be placated by this holiday and lose sight of what needs to be done. We need to keep pressure on Biden. We need to keep pressure on every Democratic senator, all of our House of Representatives, and all of our Congress legislative individuals down in the Texas House. We've got to stay engaged. We are not going back. And the end on that, before I let Sydney say something, is remember Frederick Douglass. We got 3 boxes that protect our liberty: the ballot box, the jury box, and the bullet box. Remember that.
And I just want to say, for the record, they did not give us Juneteenth. We've been celebrating Juneteenth all these years. All right? White acknowledgement means nothing. Okay? We set the tone. That's all I want to say.
And it's stated earlier on WFAA when I said I celebrate every day by being black because I'm a survivor. And guess what? To all of you out there, happy Juneteenth. You survived. We'll see you later. Commish Radio Show will be back on next Saturday. Take care.
The champ is here!